You don't drink alcohol. You rarely eat fried food. You're not significantly overweight. So when your doctor tells you you have fatty liver, your first reaction might be, that can't be right, but it can. And here's the part that surprises many people over 50. Alcohol is only one possible reason fat can build up inside your liver. Your liver doesn't need a glass of wine or a bottle of beer to start storing excess fat. In some people, the real story involves something much more ordinary, something that may be sitting in your kitchen right now. And once you understand what it is, you may look at your daily habits very differently. Let's start with a simple story. Imagine a 62-year-old man named David. He has always been fairly lean. He walks regularly, doesn't smoke, and rarely drinks. He feels healthy, so he's surprised when routine blood work comes back with a few liver numbers that concern his doctor. An ultrasound is ordered. Then comes the unexpected result: fatty liver. David is confused. How could that happen to me? I don't drink. That question is actually very important because it exposes one of the biggest misunderstandings about liver health. Fatty liver doesn't simply mean someone drank too much. It means that excess fat has accumulated in the liver. And there can be several different pathways that lead there. For some people, the story may involve excess body weight or insulin resistance. For others, it may involve certain eating patterns, metabolic health, genetics, medications, or other medical conditions. And sometimes several factors quietly work together. The tricky part? You may not feel anything at all. No dramatic pain, no obvious warning, no flashing signal telling you that your liver needs attention. That's why the question isn't simply, do you drink? A better question is, what is happening inside my metabolism, even if I look perfectly healthy on the outside? And in the next few minutes, we're going to uncover one of the most overlooked reasons this can happen, even in people who never touch alcohol. Because the culprit may not be the food you think it is. It may be what your body is doing with it. Here's where the story gets interesting. When most people hear fatty liver, they picture bacon, butter, fried chicken, or some other obviously fatty food. But your liver doesn't simply fill up with fat because you ate something greasy. Your body is constantly moving energy around. Food is broken down, nutrients enter the bloodstream, and your liver helps decide what gets used, stored, or converted. And one nutrient can become especially important in this process: sugar. Now, I'm not saying that eating a piece of fruit causes fatty liver. It doesn't. And this isn't about blaming every carbohydrate you eat. The bigger issue is a pattern of consuming more added sugar and refined carbohydrates than your body can comfortably handle, especially when combined with low physical activity or metabolic problems. Think about what happens during a typical day. Maybe breakfast is sweetened cereal and toast. Then comes a flavored coffee. Lunch includes a sandwich and chips. In the afternoon, there's a cookie or another snack. Dinner might be perfectly reasonable, but then there's dessert or a sugary drink. None of these choices seems shocking by itself. That's exactly why the pattern can be easy to miss. Your body doesn't judge your diet meal by meal. It responds to the overall pattern. And for some people, repeated exposure to excess energy and rapidly digested carbohydrates can contribute to insulin resistance. Insulin is one of the hormones that helps regulate blood sugar. When the body becomes less responsive to insulin, the system has to work harder to keep blood glucose under control. Over time, that metabolic imbalance can be associated with fat accumulation in the liver. And here's the surprising part. You can have insulin resistance without looking obese. A person can have a relatively normal body weight while still carrying more body fat than is ideal, particularly around internal organs or having relatively little muscle. This is one reason the bathroom scale can sometimes give you a false sense of security. Two people can weigh exactly the same, yet have very different metabolic health. That's especially important after 50, when muscle mass can gradually decline if we don't actively maintain it. So if you don't drink alcohol and you've been told you have fatty liver, don't immediately ask, "What did I do wrong?" Ask a better question. How well is my body handling the energy I'm giving it? And that leads us to a second piece of the puzzle. One that has surprisingly little to do with what you eat and much more to do with what you do after you eat. Because the liver doesn't work alone. Think about the last time you ate a meal and then spent the next 3 hours sitting. Maybe you had breakfast, got in the car, sat at your desk, watched television, or relaxed in your favorite chair. Nothing about that sounds dangerous. And it isn't. But when that pattern becomes your normal routine for years, your muscles may stop doing one of the jobs they're designed to do. Helping your body use glucose for energy. Your muscles are major consumers of glucose. Physical activity helps them use fuel, and regular exercise can support insulin sensitivity. This is one reason movement matters even if you're thin. You don't have to be trying to lose weight for exercise to benefit your metabolism. Imagine two people who weigh 150 pounds. One spends much of the day moving, walks regularly, climbs stairs, and does some resistance training. The other spends most of the day sitting and has very little muscle activity. Same number on the scale. Very different daily environment inside the body. And this becomes increasingly important as we get older. After 50, maintaining muscle isn't just about looking strong. Muscle helps with movement, balance, independence, and how your body handles energy. That doesn't mean you need to join a gym tomorrow and start lifting heavy weights. In fact, if you've been inactive, starting too aggressively can be a mistake. Simple things can matter. A walk after a meal, taking the stairs when appropriate, standing up regularly instead of sitting for hours, gardening, housework. And, if your doctor says it's appropriate, gradually adding strength exercises that challenge the major muscle groups. These habits may sound almost too simple. But simple is not the same as insignificant. Now, there's another factor that can make this entire situation more complicated: genetics. Some people are simply more susceptible to accumulating fat in the liver than others. That doesn't mean your genes determine your destiny. It means two people can eat similarly, exercise similarly, and still have different risks. And this is where people sometimes become frustrated. They say, "I know someone who eats terribly and has no liver problem. I eat much better, so why am I the one dealing with this?" Because health isn't a competition, and bodies don't all follow the same script. Your genetics, age, body composition, metabolic health, medications, and lifestyle can all interact. But there's a deeper question we need to answer. If you're lean, don't drink, and still develop fatty liver, could something else happening inside your body be the hidden trigger? That answer may completely change how you think about your next checkup. Here's the part many people never expect. Sometimes, fatty liver isn't really about how you look at all. It's about what's happening with your blood sugar, blood fats, blood pressure, and insulin sensitivity. These things can quietly change for years without producing obvious symptoms. You may still fit into the same clothes. Your weight may barely change. You may even tell your friends, "I've always been naturally thin." Meanwhile, your metabolic health may be moving in a different direction. This is particularly important as we get older. Your body changes with age. Muscle mass can decline. Daily activity often decreases without us noticing. Sleep can become more disrupted. Medications may be added, and the way your body handles calories and glucose may change as well. None of this means that getting older automatically causes fatty liver. It simply means that the habits that worked for you at 35 may not produce exactly the same results at 65. And there's another misconception worth clearing up. You might think, if my liver enzymes are normal, my liver must be completely fine. Not necessarily. Routine blood tests can provide useful information, but they don't tell the entire story by themselves. A doctor may consider your medical history, metabolic risk factors, blood tests, and sometimes imaging or other assessments when evaluating your liver. That's why an unexpected finding on an ultrasound or another test shouldn't automatically be dismissed just because you feel healthy. At the same time, don't panic. Fatty liver is not a guarantee that serious liver disease will develop. Many people have mild disease and can work with their healthcare professional on lifestyle and medical strategies to reduce risk. The key is understanding why it may be happening in your particular case. For example, your doctor might want to look at your blood glucose, or a 1C. They may check your triglycerides and cholesterol. They may review your blood pressure. They may ask about medications and supplements. They may discuss alcohol, even if you rarely drink. And they may consider other causes of liver abnormalities. This is important because fatty liver isn't one single story for every person. There can be different causes, different risk factors, and different degrees of concern. So instead of asking, how do I detox my liver? A much more useful question is, what is contributing to this in my body, and what can I actually change? And now we're approaching the turning point. Because if you're over 50, there's one everyday habit that may be far more important than trying to find the perfect liver cleanse. And it's something you can start changing without buying a single supplement. That habit is what you do consistently with food and movement, not a special detox product. If you've been told you have fatty liver and you don't drink alcohol, you may be tempted to search for a miracle solution. Maybe it's a liver cleanse. Maybe it's an expensive supplement. Maybe it's a tea that promises to flush out toxins. The problem is that your liver isn't a dirty filter that needs to be flushed. It's a living organ with an enormous number of jobs, including processing nutrients, medications, and other substances. So rather than asking, what can I take to clean my liver? Start by asking, what can I stop doing that may be working against my metabolic health? For many people, one useful place to begin is with sugary drinks, soda, sweet tea, energy drinks, large specialty coffees loaded with added sugar. Even drinks that seem harmless can add a surprising amount of sugar and calories when consumed regularly. And liquid calories are easy to overlook because they don't always make you feel as full as solid food. So if you currently drink several sweetened beverages each day, replacing some of them with water or another unsweetened option can be a practical first step. Then look at the rest of your diet. You don't need to become afraid of carbohydrates. You don't need to eliminate fruit. And you don't need to eat a completely fat-free diet. Instead, focus on the overall quality of your meals. Build meals around vegetables, protein-rich foods, beans, whole grains, fish, nuts, seeds, and other minimally processed foods that fit your health needs. Pay attention to highly processed foods that are easy to overeat, especially those high in added sugars and refined carbohydrates. And here's something people often miss. Portion size still matters even when the food is considered healthy. A handful of nuts can be nutritious, but eating several handfuls every evening is a different story. Avocado can be nutritious, but adding large amounts to every meal can still increase total energy intake. Healthy food is not magic food. The goal isn't perfection. It's a sustainable pattern you can actually live with. Then add movement. You might begin with a 10-minute walk after a meal. If that feels manageable, build from there. Over time, consider adding strength training, because preserving muscle becomes increasingly valuable with age. But there's one important question we haven't answered yet. What if you're already thin and losing weight isn't something you need? Or should? Do? That changes the strategy considerably, and this is where many people make their biggest mistake. If you're already thin, here's the mistake I want you to avoid. Don't assume that the answer to fatty liver is simply to lose more weight. That may sound obvious, but it's surprisingly easy to fall into this trap. You hear the words, fatty liver. You search for advice online, and suddenly every recommendation seems to involve cutting calories, shrinking portions, or losing pounds. But if you're already lean, aggressively restricting food may not be the smartest goal, especially after 50. Because there's something more important than watching the scale move downward. You want to protect your muscle. Think about what happens when someone loses weight too quickly. The scale goes down, but not every pound necessarily comes from body fat. Some of the weight can come from muscle and other lean tissue. And losing muscle as we age can affect strength, balance, mobility, and independence. So if you're thin and dealing with fatty liver, your strategy may need to be very different from someone with significant excess weight. Instead of thinking, "How little can I eat?" think, "How can I give my body better quality fuel while keeping myself strong?" That could mean replacing sugary snacks with more nutritious options, choosing protein-rich foods appropriate for your health needs, eating more vegetables and high-fiber foods, reducing highly processed foods, and staying physically active. Resistance training can be especially valuable because your muscles need a reason to stay strong. That might mean working with resistance bands, using light weights, performing chair-based exercises, or following a structured program recommended by a qualified professional. If you have heart disease, joint problems, balance issues, or another medical condition, get appropriate guidance before starting a new exercise program. And don't forget something that sounds almost boring: sleep. Poor sleep doesn't automatically cause fatty liver, but consistently poor sleep can be connected with metabolic health problems, appetite regulation, and other factors that make healthy habits harder to maintain. So if you regularly wake up exhausted, snore heavily, or struggle with persistent sleep problems, bring that up with your healthcare provider. Now, there's another issue that deserves attention. Some people develop fatty liver even though they have made many healthy choices. They don't drink. They eat reasonably well. They exercise. They maintain a healthy weight. So what then? This is where your doctor may need to look beyond lifestyle alone. Certain medications, medical conditions, genetics, and other causes can sometimes contribute to liver abnormalities. That's why self-diagnosis can be risky. Instead of assuming you know the cause, ask your healthcare professional to help identify it, because once you know why it's happening, the next step becomes much clearer. And that brings us to the most practical question of all: what should you actually do tomorrow morning? Tomorrow morning, don't wake up thinking, "I need to fix my liver." That sounds like a huge task. Instead, choose a few small actions that support your overall metabolic health. Start with breakfast. Look at what you normally eat and ask one simple question. Is this giving my body useful nutrition, or mostly giving me quickly absorbed calories? For example, a breakfast built around protein, fiber, and minimally processed foods may keep you satisfied longer than a meal centered around sugary cereal, pastries, or a sweetened drink. You don't need a perfect breakfast. You need a better pattern. Then, look at your beverage. If you regularly drink something sweet, try replacing one serving with water, sparkling water, or another unsweetened option. That single change may be easier to maintain than trying to completely redesign your diet overnight. Next comes movement. You don't need to spend an hour at the gym. If you're physically able, take a short walk after a meal. 10 minutes is a reasonable place to begin for many people. Then gradually build your activity based on your fitness level and your doctor's advice. And at least a couple of times each week, consider some form of resistance exercise if it's safe for you. Again, the goal isn't to become a bodybuilder. The goal is to tell your muscles, "We still need you." That message becomes increasingly important as the years go by. Now, let's talk about alcohol. You may be thinking, "But I already told you. I don't drink exactly." That's useful information. But if you do occasionally drink, don't assume that one category of fatty liver automatically explains your situation. Be honest with your healthcare provider about how much and how often you drink. That information can help them distinguish between possible causes and make better recommendations. And if you take prescription medications, over-the-counter products, or supplements, mention those too. Please don't stop a prescribed medication on your own, and be cautious with products marketed as liver detox, liver cleanse, or fat-burning solutions. A natural label does not automatically mean a product is safe or effective. Most importantly, if you've been told you have fatty liver, ask your doctor what the finding actually means in your case. Do you need repeat blood tests? Imaging? Further evaluation? Are your blood sugar, cholesterol, or triglycerides elevated? Do you have other risk factors that should be addressed? Those questions can turn vague worry into a concrete plan. And there's one final piece of this story that may be the most reassuring of all. You don't need to become perfect. You need to become consistent, because your liver doesn't care whether you followed a miracle plan for 7 days. What matters is the pattern you create over months and years. And once you understand that, fatty liver stops being a mysterious diagnosis and becomes a reason to pay closer attention to your overall health. Tomorrow morning, don't wake up thinking, I need to fix my liver. That sounds like a huge task. Instead, choose a few small actions that support your overall metabolic health. Start with breakfast. Look at what you normally eat and ask one simple question. Is this giving my body useful nutrition, or mostly giving me quickly absorbed calories? For example, a breakfast built around protein, fiber, and minimally processed foods may keep you satisfied longer than a meal centered around sugary cereal, pastries, or a sweetened drink. You don't need a perfect breakfast. You need a better pattern. Then, look at your beverage. If you regularly drink something sweet, try replacing one serving with water, sparkling water, or another unsweetened option. That single change may be easier to maintain than trying to completely redesign your diet overnight. Next comes movement. You don't need to spend an hour at the gym. If you're physically able, take a short walk after a meal. 10 minutes is a reasonable place to begin for many people. Then gradually build your activity based on your fitness level and your doctor's advice. And at least a couple of times each week, consider some form of resistance exercise if it's safe for you. Again, the goal isn't to become a bodybuilder. The goal is to tell your muscles, we still need you. That message becomes increasingly important as the years go by. Now, let's talk about alcohol. You may be thinking, but I already told you. I don't drink, exactly. That's useful information. But if you do occasionally drink, don't assume that one category of fatty liver automatically explains your situation. Be honest with your healthcare provider about how much and how often you drink. That information can help them distinguish between possible causes and make better recommendations. And if you take prescription medications, over-the-counter products, or supplements, mention those too. Please don't stop a prescribed medication on your own, and be cautious with products marketed as liver detox, liver cleanse, or fat-burning solutions. A natural label does not automatically mean a product is safe or effective. Most importantly, if you've been told you have fatty liver, ask your doctor what the finding actually means in your case. Do you need repeat blood tests? Imaging? Further evaluation? Are your blood sugar, cholesterol, or triglycerides elevated? Do you have other risk factors that should be addressed? Those questions can turn vague worry into a concrete plan. And there's one final piece of this story that may be the most reassuring of all. You don't need to become perfect. You need to become consistent, because your liver doesn't care whether you followed a miracle plan for 7 days. What matters is the pattern you create over months and years. And once you understand that, fatty liver stops being a mysterious diagnosis and becomes a reason to pay closer attention to your overall health.